Hey guys. So I'm here today with the amazing Fabian Wood, and we are going to talk today about a pressing issue that's going on right now. Suicide Prevention Month is, I don't know if you guys know that September is Suicide Prevention Month. So what we're doing is I'm talking to a few people over the course of the month that has dealt with suicide and mental illness and different things, who've had these things personally in their life, and the things that they are making strides to help people during this time. And Fabian, he has done some amazing things working with people. He has the D Woods Foundation, who which helps people with mental health, and it's in the nonprofit field. So I'll let him tell you a little bit more. I'm going to introduce Fabian. And Fabian, say hello to my listeners.
Hey, well, thank you for having me again. My name is Fabian Wood. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. No, perfect. Yeah, so as mentioned, my name is Fabian Wood. I'm the founder of the D Wood Foundation. Our mission is to enhance awareness for suicide prevention and to advocate for mental health reform in minority communities. So again, I appreciate you for having me. And this topic and this conversation is much needed. It takes an awareness month or just kind of a trigger to get the conversation started. But it's really an ongoing process and boosting awareness for this topic and actually helping people get through and heal from this topic as well of suicide prevention. So thank you for even caring and wanting to use your platform to have people come and share their experience around it.
Thank you so much. You're welcome, and thank you for being a part of this whole thing. It definitely, like you mentioned, it's definitely something that we all, especially in the Black community, need to really get on top of our mental health, and just people, us human beings in general. We definitely need to get on top of our mental health. So I'm just gonna jump in and ask, find out a little bit more about you. I just wanted to know if you could tell me just tell us, like, what I know that you have a personal connection to suicide. So do you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. It's taken quite some time to get to this point to be so openly to share about, this issue and how it directly affected my life.
That's
But, being here and being an advocate for mental health, sharing your story can really go a long way.
Exactly.
And what I call the power of conversation, just having these conversations and engaging with new people or distant loved ones.
Right.
It's really the kind of time that could save a life, without just realizing it. So once I realized that I needed to share my story a bit and I needed to actually engage with the community in this way, that's when when I decided that, okay, I needed to do it in this way. So for me, suicide came into my life when my mother passed from suicide at the age of 38. Wow. When I was 19. Yeah, about 19 years old. Leaving myself and my younger brother for to be the last beacons of our names, right? For the last wood for our family. So, of course, that was a hard time. Of course, it was, very difficult. But the main things that I realized was that one, suicide is very real, and it doesn't have any race, shade, or color. It can come at any point. Not with somebody who's actually suicidal, but more so, from somebody who's not aware of suicide prevention tips and aware of, when somebody's even in the kind of mindset, in an depressive mindset. So, for me, being a young man, I'm from Chicago. I spent a lot of my life in Houston. At that point in my life, I had just came back from playing basketball in Germany. I was trying to find my way. So the last thing on my mind was mental wellness, right? Of course, growing up in, the communities I did, you never saw any kind of conversations about it. You never really heard or really saw any resources or any commercials for resources.
No.
So, we never really talked about it in that way. And my mother, she was one of the strongest people I've ever met, even to this day. And, she dealt with, in a young age, had me at 18, dealt with substance abuse and, things of that nature, and just a very traumatic childhood. growing up with her, I grew up going to Narcotic Anonymous meetings and things like that. She went through her recovery, but she did sustain recovery, many years of recovery actually, and help many women get through the recovery process and what we call the Free at Last, or what was called the Free at Last Fellowship. So, I grew up watching my mother help a lot of people, kind of be a servant without really identifying that that's what she was doing.
Right.
She wasn't saying, hey, I'm doing community service. Hey, I'm doing this. It was just what she felt she was moved to do and what she naturally could do. So, I can't count all the hours that she sat on the phone talking to people, engaging with her, her friends when they were going through things, and just really bearing the weight of other people on her shoulders.
That's that's amazing, and it makes sense that you've gotten into the same thing, into helping and serving. It's funny, me and you have similar stories. My mother passed away at night when I was 19 as well. Although she passed away from complications with cancer and other different things, but my mother also, she was diagnosed bipolar, but it was something that we didn't find out until after she had already passed. Like, being that everything, my mother was very secretive, and the family being secretive, no one wants to admit that someone's going through mental issues. And my mother had alcoholism issues years before I was born. She was an alcoholic. She had attempted suicide prior to me being born. So yeah, like, there's a similar story in that whole thing, and we don't even realize, like, certain things like this get passed on, or especially even what you saying, your mother being so strong. It's like we never know what their internal struggle is.
Right, absolutely, and I think that towards the end of her life, the internal struggle started to become a little bit more visible.
Right.
I think that people, when it comes to mental health, I think that it's not just about people not wanting to get help. It's more, in my opinion, people not knowing that they need and when to actually get help.
Right.
Because it's just not taught in our communities in that conventional way.
Right.
I say that, we've always had to use unique approaches and unique strategies to get the same goals across. And, for us, what I call the culture of support, back in the day, we had a stronger support, not just around mental health, but stronger support within our community that trickled into mental wellness for our people. But, we couldn't afford a lot of these services, which, we can't afford really today.
Right.
So, you had to use your barbershop and, your neighbors and your community to actually have mental wellness, and I think that for minorities, for us, there's so many compounding issues, so many things that, the invisible mental health, is, you don't think about it, right? We just kind of think about what's physically in front of us.
Right.
So for me, I guess trying to normalize it is one of the biggest things.
Right, removing the stigmas.
Yeah. I just believe that mental wellness is a 3-stage process, right? Starting with engagement and education and awareness,
exactly,
right? Moving into treatment, into healing, and those things, and then moving into empowerment and into advocacy, and into those vessels. And me and my organization, we operate in the first stage of the engagement, the education and awareness, and just trying to show, that there is an importance for it. Kind of going back to the stigma, I believe that I have my own opinion about the stigma around mental health in our community. I don't think that it solely lies on our end, or that the bulk of it lies on our side.
Okay.
But I do believe that the simple things, like when you see numbers, when you see, and things that could be and that are affecting you, then you're going to respond differently versus somebody just kind of telling you, or you just, hearing it from around the way.
Right.
And that's what we're here for. Yeah.
Right. And the one thing that I like speaking on being able to afford, it's so sad that mental health and mental wellness and different things to get in a healthy mental state is kind of considered like a luxury. It's not that it's a given that, sometimes like even with myself with trying to get the best care because what I found helped me was meditation. But even when trying to find therapy, certain insurances didn't cover it, and certain insurances didn't cover it, or you couldn't get the best therapy that you needed if you didn't have the right amount of money or the right type of insurances. So the fact that it's a luxury and it's just not given, that's the reason why I wanted to create my podcast. That way I can give out free information and things like that. One of the questions I do have, um, in reference to like even with your mother or with anyone, is how, because I want people that may be listening, if they're dealing with it themselves or if they have someone that's around them, like signs, because there's certain signs that we kind of ignore because like you mentioned, sometimes we don't even know. And I know from my past, I didn't know I was dealing with depression. I didn't know. I thought everyone got extremely sad and had mood swings. I thought everyone was dealing with um suicidal thoughts at times. Or even though I kept it silent, you kind of think that, okay, well, maybe everyone may be having these things and these things aren't normal, like not knowing that they're not normal. So like, what are certain signs that you feel like either a person themselves should look out for, or a person, like especially like a parent and they have children, like what kind of signs do you think shows up that people could be aware of or like look for?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And of course, there are, I don't say tons, but there are a lot of different signs and signals that do occur when somebody is suicidal, and there are different levels, right, of suicide or of suicidal ideology.
Right.
Well, one, it is a good question because suicide is the second leading cause of death right now for children between 10 and 24. Right. So I don't want to call 24-year-old children, but,
right. But it's still, they're very young. Yeah.
And it's, you wouldn't think that because, you wouldn't, to me, that's the furthest thing from my mind, but it just wasn't a reality, for me growing up. So for me and to me and watching, what my mother went through and identifying, okay, there were stages, there were signs that I just was unaware of. The first sign to me, and the number one sign, was isolation.
Right. I was just going to say that, withdrawal. Right.
Yeah, people isolating themselves and distancing themselves from loved ones, from people that are usually around, right, and from situations that they normally find comfort in. Of course, changes in behavior. Not feeling as energetic and maybe as you had in the past, not wanting to do a lot of those things that normally you find joy in. And seeing your child go through that, right? If they every day, they want to tell them to come home and play the game, or every day they want to do this, and they always look forward to doing this. And then now, they're not wanting to do this as much, and now they're not being as social as they were, and they're being a lot more distant. I think that is where we have to take that intentional step with our children, but also with the community, right? And use that power of conversation, right? Not be afraid to ask if somebody's okay, right? How they're feeling, in general, or being specific, how you feeling mentally, right? Now, for me, through what I call social depression, and it's a concept that I've coined, which is essentially the mental fatigue that society creates, right? And it creates immobilization. Right, so people not wanting to mobilize themselves to do certain things, and I think that the intentional effort that it would take to actually engage with somebody who may be going through something, when you in fact are going through things, whether it's mentally, whether it's just life, whatever it is, that takes a certain amount of energy, right, to actually do. And when you have people who are socially depressed, i.e., mentally fatigued, then that taking that extra step requires a little bit more effort than what's normal. So, me trying to, I think that if we could identify the importance, in a relatable way for our people, then we'll create more people willing to get through their mental fatigue, more people willing to get through their social depression, and create again that culture of support that we once shared. And yeah, so that's kind of my point of view. So again, to answer your questions, identifying isolation, where somebody is becoming isolated or withdrawn from a situation or environment or people that they're normally around. And I would say behavioral changes, when somebody is not doing and not as enthusiastic as they were, but just in general, as they are about things that they normally would be.
Right. And I totally agree with the asking, because like I just said this earlier on social media, ask a person how they're doing and really mean it. Because a lot of times someone just say, how are you doing, is just a blanket question, and they're not really looking for the answer. But sometimes it takes more than, just really mean, how are you doing? And most people, like I know me, when I was going through it a lot, my default answer was, "Oh, I'm fine." But no, ask again. Sometimes you need to probe, like really feel a person out. And that's when we have to get more in tune with people and get in tune with, just energies and understanding that, because I remember just a personal story from myself. I remember when I was in one of my I call it the dark hours, those dark moments. And I was in my dark place, and, I'm in my house going through it. Is one of those days where I'm having one of the manic swings, and, I'm looking around like anything that could have, taken me out of here. If I could have found it, I would have used it. And that's what I was going through at that moment. And I remember my phone rang, and it was my friend that lived up the street. And I just, for some reason, the universe said, answer the phone. So I answered the phone, and she's like, hey. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, how you doing? I said, oh, I'm fine. But she could hear. I don't sound that fine. So she kept asking. She's like, are you sure? What's going on? Are you okay? And it's just like, just that probing and that care made me really break down and really start telling her what's going on. And she rushed over to my house, and that saved me. So, just asking and being really, persistent, right? Mindful. Like we have to, it's our responsibilities to really, help each other, help save each other, really listen to each other, really love on each other. And really, we have so much stuff going on in our own personal lives. Sometimes we get so caught up into what's going on in our lives, and we don't dig into the self-care, the care of our other, of our friends and stuff like that. So people ask. I don't want to start rambling on, because I can ramble.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think you hit it all on the head, and that's, now sometimes, as somebody trying to be an advocate and trying to help, with suicide prevention, some cases are even harder than others. Some cases, some situations require a deeper level of intervention. That somebody, simply just having a conversation with you. And obviously that's what I deal with my mother, helping her in her time, and from directly, trying to get into the services or to whatever services were available, to, being there and just trying to talk with her, and it wasn't a long process. It wasn't like it was months in the process. It wasn't like, that it was an all day, every day kind of thing. It was very triggered, very sporadic. You wouldn't know, if she was going through something to that effect, if you didn't know personally, or actually, like you say, were mindful enough to ask what was going on.
And how did that?
Once she passed, I moved to Austin, ended up going to school, and I realized that, I needed to plant my flag for myself and my family here. And just growing through the city and seeing different things, going to an HBCU and seeing, some of the lacks in the mental health services even there. That's when I realized that God had blessed me,
Mm-hmm.
I guess to a degree with my situation and with the personal skills needed to actually utilize the situation
Mm-hmm.
um, to benefit others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the D Wood Foundation came from.
Okay. Yeah, because that was one of my next questions. I did also want to know, how did this impact your family and yourself? Like, did you need
Mhm.
therapy after, or did you just go on and you got your therapy through helping others? Like, how was it? How, because I know you mentioned another younger sibling. How did that impact you guys? And what did y'all have to go through anything to get past that? Because that could be very traumatic in itself. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think we use separate methods. What was comfortable for us.
okay.
Me, going to college, being slightly a social person, always having good friends and people in my life. I was
Mhm.
able to get through it by growing as a person. I was able to start not a new life, but start a new chapter of my life when I moved to Austin. I was able to meet some new people, who cared about me, to that degree, and I was able to I guess to share, and to be still myself, right? So
Right.
the continuity from me from that situation, I immediately knew I need to take care of my family, my brother, and then moving to Austin and knowing what I needed to do. So that was mine. And then now being, an advocate for mental health, running, an organization surely related to mental health, and being able to maintain my mother's legacy and Hard to Help, that's where I find, I guess, my therapeutic relief is through helping others for sure. And I tell other people all the time, the best way to help yourself is to help others. Once you're able to actually get to that space, it can take
Okay.
time for everybody. Rather you've lost somebody to suicide, rather, you have been suicidal in the past, but you really, really, miss out on a euphoric feeling, if you're not utilizing what's happened to you and your struggles to help others.
Mhm.
For sure.
I totally understand that. And could you give us a little bit more information about the D Wood Foundation? Like, what do you guys provide, and are there doctors? Like, just give us a whole like idea of what the D Woods
Yeah.
Foundation does, because it's an amazing organization.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that is a good question. So no, we don't offer doctors yet. I wish we were that big yet. We're
You
still in the
gonna get there.
process of
You
growing.
gonna get there.
But kind of as I mentioned earlier, with what we believe mental wellness being a three-stage process, we operate in stage one of the education, the engagement, the awareness.
Mhm.
I think because of the uniqueness of our organization, kind of how we got fueled. One of the first things that we started is what we call the You're Not Alone Fellowship Group, or the
Okay.
YNA Fellowship. And what this organization does is operates as we can call it a youth mental health group, right?
Mhm.
During the school year, they offer biweekly programs, what are called YNA Speaks. Each
Mhm.
one is on different topics related to mental health, related to what people are going through, and
Mhm.
it's just an opportunity, kind of like narcotic anonymous groups or anonymous
Mhm.
groups.
Mhm.
Be able to come, share your story, learn a bit, and then fellowship, which is the biggest
Right.
component for
Right.
me. And what it does, it really offers that peer-to-peer support,
Right.
creating more mindfulness around mental health,
Yes.
especially for that age range.
Right.
And they've done a really good job. I think they've been running now for about 2 academic years,
Mhm.
one student organization of the year time. So, they're doing a really good job. So one of the things we're working on now is expanding that, trickling the actual fellowship group and the programs to other schools, other
Mhm.
HBCUs,
Mhm.
and grammar schools that need it. We're also offering and building capacity in what's called peer support specialist training.
Mhm.
It's essentially a preclinical exposure to
Mhm.
the mental health field, and now it's an actual people consider it a career path
Right.
now. Um, and from to me, I think this is what our people need the
Oh
most.
my
At
God,
that community
yes.
level,
Mhm.
knowing how to support peers through mental health crisis, knowing how to
Right.
support peers through substance abuse issues and things of
Mhm.
that nature. And just being equipped with those tools that I feel like I wish I would have had,
growing up,
prior.
right? And I love that you guys are in grammar schools, because I always say I feel like children need to learn early about their mental capacity, and children get stressed out too, because you never know what's going on, and especially in the minority communities, children are dealing with a lot at home. You never know what's like what they're dealing with, and they need that support from a very young age. I really feel like once they get into second and third grade, they need to start, I want to incorporate meditation into the kids' classes, and just get them just to find that quietness and that peace. So I love the fact that you guys are in the grammar schools, because I think once you start working that muscle of being more healthy minded, they become better adults and know how to really, handle their emotions. Because as a child, you don't know how to handle your emotions. As an adult, I could barely handle my emotions. So that's why little kids.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I fully agree. I have a son, and watching him, learn emotions and deal with them and those things it is a process. So I definitely agree.
Yeah.
So I mean, outside of those two parts of the work, last year we organized the first minority mental health rally. It was held here in Austin. Just bridging not minority services, but really just mental health services with the community. Kind of create a environment similar to what we would have experienced in the 60s, right? Going to a Dr. King rally and just trying to get people engaged and motivated around mental health, right? The importance of it. That is what we called the Time to Rise rally last year.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you can go ahead and talk about it. I was going to ask you about a Time to Rise. Like, what was that? Okay.
Yeah, so Time to Rise, that's, it's meaning time to rise from social depression, and just build that culture of support. And last year, again, we held it in July, which is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and about 2 days before my mother's death anniversary.
Wow. Okay.
So this year, unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to physically hold it,
right.
And we adjusted to holding the rally in a virtual capacity, and then adjusted from that to using the rally brand of the Time to Rise brand as a visual YouTube series. Where now we're hosting roundtable discussions with just different people from different walks of life discussing mental wellness.
Okay, Fabian. So my next question I wanted to ask, basically about the stigma. How do you feel about the stigmas that about mental health and especially in the Black community, especially with Black men? Like, give us your ideas on that, and why do you even think that? Why do we have these stigmas? Like, I don't even know where this come from, or where did this even come from? Like, what?
I know, right?
Why do we have these issues?
Where is this concept of people wanting to get help, become stigmatized, right? Because I mean, that's ultimately what is being discussed, is that they are saying that we don't either care enough about mental health, or that we don't, that we obviously don't care, just don't care about help, right? And I think that's very misleading, right? Who capacity when things are available, right, would not want to get help,
right? Exactly.
Knowing that they need it. So my thing is that, okay, what are the actual things that are impacting and creating this stigma, right? Number one is the lack of awareness. Two, you would call the social barriers, right, that are placed on mental wellness for our community. I mean, when the bulk of the affordable mental wellness providers on the other side of the I say the other side of the highway because that's here in Austin. You got 35, right? And then you got East Austin on one side of 35, and then you have the other side of Austin on the other side of 35. And it's an intentional representation and divisional split of races here in Austin. So I say the other side of 35. The other side of 35. That's where you're going to find the resources. That's where you're going to see the billboards. That's where you're going to see the advertising and the promotion and all of the subconscious ways to attract mental wellness on that side. But you're not going to see that on our side, right? What are you going to find? You're going to find stress management, really impactful stress management, fast food,
so they can help us keep running on autopilot in our mess.
Exactly.
Like enabling us to be in our mess. Like, okay, deal with the stresses.
Exactly. I mean, if you had more grocery stores in your area, then you may not want to stop for the fast food each time, right?
Right.
Just all these subconscious things that are placed, in my opinion, intentionally and systematically for us to be in a socially depressive mindset, and for us, like you said, to be on autopilot. So to me, when coming back to stigma, I think that the stigma lies on that side, right? I think that the stigma of thinking that African Americans, especially African American males, don't want or need mental health services is inaccurate. The stigma around on the other side saying that we don't care about our mental wellness is inaccurate. And then the stigma of saying that we don't do anything to maintain our mental wellness is also inaccurate. As a Black, we use unique ways to do the same thing, right? If we can't go to a therapist, you know what? I might talk to a friend at a poker game, or I might talk to a friend at the basketball court, or in the environments that we are in. And believe it or not, if you're not in these environments, of course you have no clue what the conversations are being had. But these are some of the most empowering conversations come from a group of guys that if you were riding past the street, you would probably think of it up to no good or just doing something, you know what I'm saying? That society tells you that they're not doing what they actually are doing, right? For myself, once I became a visible advocate for mental health, a lot of my homeboys, a lot of my friends, they see me, they think about mental health, and they're not afraid to actually voice their opinion. Right?
I love it. Because that's a lot of it too. It's a lot of it too, because not only is the other stigmas of that we don't care, we're not invested in all these other things, it's seen as a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's seen as a sign of weakness to actually be unstable or be unhappy. Like you're a strong Black man or you're a strong Black woman, and sometimes even that title of being strong is what weakens us, because it's like that's a heavy cross to bear, to always have to be the strong. Like, okay, I'm human.
And then, but you look at where those where you say what we're supposed to be, strong in those words. All those things are societal definitions, societal things that if we really think about that, we would realize how much we've actually how much of this is artificial, right? How much of how we feel and think is kind of been placed in our community, by these social forces. I tell people this all the time. The year I was born, 1 in every 4 African Americans born that year had at least one parent that was incarcerated.
Wow.
Obviously that these are systematic ways to remove, the Black males from the homes, and then now you have generations of kids who need to find identity, right, within their masculinity. So now you give them artificial masculinity, right? You give them what you want their vision of masculinity to be, and that's obviously a destroying factor. So again, I guess in my opinion, the stigma, again, is not on our side. Now, of course, we do need to operate, right? We can't just say, hey, well, there's a stigma, so let's not do anything else. Let's not prove them wrong. Let's not, show visibly what we actually care about. And I guess that kind of brings me to a new movement that we're pushing out called Barrier Breakers. And this doesn't have any mission, right, or any kind of direct things that it's supposed to do outside of being a visible representation of individuals who, one, care about mental health, but two, identify as people who break barriers through through it all. And the goal is to make this, to utilize this to be to normalize mental health, to kind of create I guess that's a better word, a clique around mental health, right? Getting guys, just like we would be in any of these other groups, getting guys to want to be in this, right? To do that. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely. Because we do care. We do care. There are a lot of Black males, not just including myself, who speak on mental health, who use mental wellness techniques all the time, but it's, if you watch a commercial, anybody watches a commercial, if you don't see you being represented in that commercial, whether it's by your sex, ethnicity, or just somebody, regardless of color, who actually represents who you are as a person to a degree, then you're not probably going to buy that product.
Right. And that's why I was so excited to talk to you when I seen what your mission was, and you're a Black male and you're on this topic. I was like, oh no, I definitely got to speak to him, because this is what we need. This is what's needed. And it's like, it is such a rare thing to see. And, it's like sprinkles of you guys out there. So I'm happy that you guys are out there, and I'm so happy to talk to you and share you with my listeners and stuff like that. So thank you. Thank you so much for all the men and the little boys out there that's going to need your voice.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me again, being able to voice my opinions and voice how I feel about mental wellness in our community on your platform. I really appreciate that.
Okay. So my next question is, how could someone, if they want to be involved in the D Wood Foundation, or they want to, you know what, before I get into that, you mentioned certain self-help techniques. So what are there any techniques that you could share that maybe you do, or that you suggest to people that are part of your foundation? You have any techniques you could share? Because
yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh no, because I was gonna say mine is meditation. I'm like the meditation pusher.
Meditation is key. I think that regardless of my personal self-help techniques, I think one, identifying that you can use any technique, right? Kind of reconditioning ourselves to be willing to use different techniques that we may have not used in the past. Right, is all I think is necessary. So for me, I had to recondition myself to, like you say, start meditating to a degree. I'm very big on the push-pull part of my life, meaning you need to push and you need pull in your life and in your day. And if you don't get that, then a lot of times you'll have built up aggression or built up emotion, that can negatively come out. So I get that through exercising, through doing physical activities. Let's see. I try to be mindful and to create moments where I am being mindful. One, about talking to myself, right? And two, what I'm telling others. And then I say this is one of my newest favorite techniques. So anybody who's on social media knows that advertisements run, right? If you even think about a cheeseburger, you're probably going to get cheeseburger ads.
I hate that. Like, what? Get out of my head and get out of my phone.
Right. Hate that. Exactly. So I say this, right? If you want to start to live a certain type of life, maybe that's different. If you want to build some mental wellness in your life, utilize Google, utilize your social media. Go on and like a couple pages that are related to mental wellness, that are related to those techniques. Go on and Google some techniques and Google things in relation to it. I ain't got to do a lot, but if you do that, you'll start to see the advertisements for the thing that you're looking for, and that'll start to create mindfulness within itself. I use that more specifically for working out. Right? Hey, I don't know all the workouts. I want to continue to be motivated, but I need to be subconsciously attracted. I need to continuously see it to a degree.
Right.
So following, workout people doing those things, that's going to make you start to see it and be more aware.
Right.
Absolutely.
And YouTube is another one. I call YouTube my morning church because, like, if you want any self-help, anything, all you got to do is type it into YouTube and you can get so many motivational videos, so many speeches, so many meditations, so much books, audio books. I found so many books up there and different teachers, and so YouTube also is definitely a great friend. Like that's how I start my morning. I would like to share a technique as well is having a great morning routine. How you start your morning definitely helps how you set your mind for the day. And the best time to reset your mind during it is early in the morning when you first wake up and set your intentions, get a routine. My routine is I wake up in the morning, I light candles around my house. I think about what I'm grateful for, get into a place of gratitude. I may do some meditation, or even if I don't get a chance to do some meditation, opening up the blinds, letting some sun in, and just walking around and just appreciating what you have, appreciating your home, appreciating that you woke up, that you're breathing. Of those appreciation and just that time to yourself will do wonders for your day, and it just sets the tone for your day. So definitely a great technique is get mindful within your morning and set the tone of your day and get into a routine every morning and wake up, make your tea, stick to it. Stick to a routine. Find something that's easy. Don't have to do nothing that's crazy that you won't stick to. Like, I'm gonna run 10 miles this morning. You probably won't, but if you do, hey, great for you. But do small little things that are just bring you some happiness and some peace. Light some candles or burn some incense, something that'll bring you into a calm place. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree.
Yep. So what was I saying? Oh, so the next one was how can people get involved? How can we be D Wood Foundation people? How can we help?
Yeah. So, well, one, find us on online at dwoodfoundation.org. Find us on our media pages at the dwoodfoundation.org. There's no S, so just D Wood Foundation. Well, one, we're offering and we're trying to build capacity within the peer support space. So if anybody's interested in moving, being a little bit more intentional with their advocacy around mental health, contact us. We definitely would love to share some of these resources and potentially get you through that peer support training and certification. Two, just being a vessel, being mindful, considering yourself to be a barrier breaker and spreading the peace of mental wellness is the best way that you can help be a part of this organization.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Fabian, again for talking with us. And I hope to speak with you soon. And hopefully something else comes up and we can chit chat again. But
yes.
Yep. So everyone, this was Fabian Wood, and thank you guys for listening.
Yes. Salam. Thank y'all.